Which camera will Sony announce next? The Sony a7S III was announced in June of 2020 and started shipping a few months later in August, while the a7 IV was announced in late summer of 2021 and started shipping in December. So why the delay? But before we get to the details, please subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything, helps this channel grow, and keeps you up to date on the latest camera coverage. Andrea Pizzini said, Sony will not announce a new Sony a7 IV this year. The a7 V will definitely arrive in 2025. And the a7 IV, being one of Sony's top-selling cameras, is definitely due for a refresh. It's within the range, but the a7S III is definitely older, and I would peg that one as coming out next, as does Andrea Pizzini. And if we go back in time, Sony made us wait 5 years for the a7S III, and it looks like they're going to make us wait another 5 years for the a7S IV. But why the delay? The a7S III was delayed because, as Sony put it, the competition was slow to catch up. But things are very, very different here in 2024, and they have been since, well, 2020. There's an awful lot of competition in the marketplace for a camera in this segment. We now have the Canon EOS R5, the Nikon Z8. We have the Canon EOS R5 Mark II. All cameras that can boast incredibly, well, amazing video specifications, and that can do so without overheating. 8K up to 60 frames per second. Be able to output Apple ProRes RAW. Pretty impressive cameras. The competition is no longer catching up. It's actually Sony that needs to catch up to the competition. So that kind of makes me wonder, why the delay? Is Sony working on some sort of Nikon and Canon killer? Have they come up with some sort of new technology to shock the industry? I've used both the Canon EOS R5 and the Sony a7S III. Both are highly successful cameras, with the a7S III focused on video with its 12 megapixel sensor great at capturing low light. The Canon EOS R5, recently replaced by the R5 Mark II, delivers a photo-first photography experience aimed at professionals and hobbyists alike, but with improved video capabilities. The Sony a7S IV isn't going to offer 8K video like the R5 or the Z8, and won't even consider something ridiculous like 12K found in the Blackmagic Ursa 12K. Why? Well, Sony doesn't believe in cannibalizing their product line. They're not going to offer video capabilities that the A9 Mark III can do or the Alpha 1 can do, reducing the demand for those cameras. No, I believe it makes sense that they're not going to do 8K, not unless they update the A9 Mark III, which just came out, so they're not going to do that. Although the Alpha 1 Mark II is due out as well. Kind of brings me back to, what could Sony do? What is taking them so long? Are they working on some sort of disruption technology in the a7S IV? What one capability could Sony put into the a7S IV, making it a top seller, taking the thunder from both Canon and Nikon, shocking the industry, and would also explain the long delay? How about a global shutter sensor like the one found in the A9 Mark III? I know what you're thinking, just bear with me for a minute here. I know that the S in the a7S III stands for sensitivity. It's about producing low light performance. And this new global shutter sensor found in the A9 Mark III doesn't have the same low light, the same envelope as other cameras in its class, and I get that. However, the Sony A9 Mark III has a 24 megapixel global shutter sensor. The a7S III has 12 megapixels. What if Sony decided to just release a 12 megapixel sensor? It worked with the a7S III, and for those people complaining that it doesn't have enough resolution, remember, this is a video-centric camera, folks. What if they go ahead and release a 12 megapixel global shutter sensor, but are able to tweak the low light performance? Would that get your interest? Because if they did, if they could, it would send a magnitude 9 earthquake under Canon and also shock the folks at Nikon. You see, Nikon is expected to be the first company to announce a video-centric camera with a global shutter sensor since their acquisition of Red. Red already has a global shutter sensor that can deliver 17 to 20 stops of dynamic range, though it is priced at $29,999. And I agree, this might seem like a far-fetched idea at first, with the A9 Mark III costing $59,999. But then again, we never thought that we'd see a stacked sensor in a full-frame camera for under $4,000, did we? Or that Nikon would release a stacked sensor for under $2,500, but they did. I know what you're thinking. The Nikon Z6 Mark III doesn't have, well, a real stacked sensor. It's a partially stacked sensor. And while it gives us a really fast readout speed, it's kind of lacking in other areas, such as dynamic range, which has been pulled back a little bit. And I agree, it's not a 100% stacked sensor, but what it's shown is how Nikon has been able to, well, innovate and be able to produce a sensor that gives us all the benefits of that fast readout speed without having to pay the huge price, $2,500. And I'm not saying that, you know, we're 100% going to get a global shutter sensor in the A7S IV. I'm just saying it's taking an awful long time to come out with this camera when there's stiff competition from the Canon EOS R5, the Mark I, the Mark II, the Nikon Z8. And now even with the Nikon Z6 Mark III at $2,500, we're seeing very bold, best-in-class video capabilities that produces like 4K at 120 frames per second for $2,500. It really is an impressive camera. So with Sony up against so much competition, what could they do to shock the mirrorless world, the camera world? At $59, well, let's say $6,000 for the A9 Mark III with a 24 megapixel global shutter sensor, redesigning the sensor for half the resolution, which would take less effort, would take less cost. The amount of failure rates on the actual silicone wafer would be down because it's got less components. So the cost could definitely come down. And could Sony do something like Nikon did with the Z6 Mark III and offer a global shutter sensor that doesn't have the exact same capabilities as the A9 Mark III? And again, because it's aimed at 12 megapixels, it's not going to be attracting the attention of photographers. It's going to be aimed at video folks. And to be able to have a global shutter sensor and a video-centric camera such as the A7S IV, that would be bold. That would shock the industry. That would certainly shock Nikon that just purchased Red and still doesn't have a camera. Although they have said they plan on using Red's technology in their stills hybrid cameras, which is good news. But for Sony to beat them, I mean, Sony could be dragging their feet here. There could be other things going on here. But to wait this long for an announcement of the A7S IV, if they don't do something in August, well, then I think September and October is likely. But we've heard very little in terms of rumored specifications for the A7S IV. And this is not a complete surprise. If we go back to 2020, we heard very little. Every now and then a director would come out and indicate that something is coming. But it wasn't until June that one of the directors, and I can't remember his name, but he came out and took a lot of questions and he provided information saying, yes, it is coming out, provided us specifications. And even up until that point, even what Sony Alpha Rumors had put out with some trusted sources got things wrong, such as the sensor. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Am I completely out in left field here? And this is just, I agree, this is more of a speculative. I was relaxing and having a moment trying to think of why we're waiting so long. We just had the R5 Mark II. Why are we waiting so long for the Sony a7S IV? And then, of course, it takes us to the other very popular camera in Sony's lineup, the a7 IV. Where's the a7 V? And according to Sony Alpha Rumors, according to a trusted source, that's not going to happen this year at all. It's definitely happening in 2025. So I'll be looking forward to covering that camera. But the a7S III has a special place because I've shot with that camera. I've had it for a few weeks. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a terrific camera, and I'm really curious to see how Sony answers the competition, because unlike 2020, the competition is awake. But just look at Fujifilm too, the H2S and all the cameras that they put out. They've been innovating, coming out with really great ideas. They also have an 8K camera. Canon's done a great job. They've woken up their entire mirrorless line, and they're even releasing. They've released successors to the R6, the R6 Mark II. They've released they've announced a successor to the R5 and the R5 Mark II. Nikon's been doing a great job. The Nikon Z9, the Nikon Z8, the Nikon Z6 Mark III. It's only Panasonic that hasn't really done much. We did get the GH7, agreed, but You know what I'm talking about. It's the S1, the S1R, and the S1H. Where's the successor to those cameras? So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. This was just a result of me relaxing in the back porch on a nice summer's day, trying to come up with a single reason why the A7S IV is being delayed and what one killer feature could be. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, but that's it for now. Oh, one other thing though, keep in mind there's an awful lot of sales on right now. We got the R5 Mark I at $29.99, the Nikon Z8 at $37.96. But sadly, the Sony a7S III isn't on sale. It's still selling for $34.98. And the Sony a7 IV, also not on sale, selling for $24.98. What is it with Sony? They just don't believe they have to put their cameras on sale. It's almost as though they're in that position of number one, that certain arrogance of our cameras are so good, they don't need to go on sale. They just fade into the oblivion when we announce a new camera. Unlike Nikon and Sony that have some incredible deals on, and it's across their entire lineup. I've got there's so many cameras, I'm not even going to bother mentioning them, but I do have them in the description down below. And if you do use any of these affiliate links or even use my pre-order links, just to let you know, air of transparency, I can get anywhere from 2 to 8% back, which really helps support this channel. In fact, to be honest, the revenue I get from YouTube is such a small amount compared to what I get from affiliate and pre-order sales. So if you do use those links, a big thank you to you because you're what's keeping this channel on the air. Thank you so much. Have yourself a great day, and we'll see you again soon. And we've got another video coming out tomorrow. What could it be? Is it about Canon? Is it about Sony? Or is it about Nikon?